The first message did not come with music or flashing lights. It arrived quietly, like a question no one expected to hear. It came through official channels, passed from one office to another, until it finally reached a small human training facility built far from crowded cities. The message was simple. A group of off-world observers wanted to watch how humans trained their defenders. No contest. No battle. Just observation. At first, many people thought it was a mistake. The galaxy was full of advanced species, some born with strength that humans could never match, others trained from childhood in environments far harsher than Earth. Humans were known for effort, not power. For history, not dominance. Still, the invitation stood. The watchers would come. The training facility did not change much in preparation. No grand rebuild. No new weapons on display. The leaders decided the observers would see things as they truly were. If humans were judged, they would be judged honestly. The grounds stayed worn. The walls stayed marked with scratches and old repairs. The air still carried the smell of metal, dust, and long hours of work. On the day the observers arrived, there was no parade. No one stood in perfect lines to show off. The human trainees were already moving before sunrise, as they did every day. Some were running laps with tired legs. Others were lifting heavy equipment that had been fixed and reused many times. A few sat quietly, eyes closed, breathing slow, preparing their minds for what was ahead. When the off-world warriors appeared, the air seemed to change. They were tall, armored, and silent. Their presence alone made the ground feel smaller. These were fighters who had survived wars across many systems. They had seen planets fall and enemies disappear. They expected to witness something simple today. Weakness, maybe courage, but nothing worth remembering. They watched from elevated platforms, saying nothing. Their faces were visible, showed no interest. To them, humans looked fragile. Too slow, too limited. No natural armor, no enhanced limbs. Just bodies shaped by gravity and time. The training continued as usual. A group of humans practiced controlled movement drills. Each step was measured. Each turn repeated until it became smooth. When someone made a mistake, no one laughed. Another stepped in, showed the correct motion, and the drill continued. The off-world watchers found this strange. In many warrior cultures, mistakes were punished or mocked. Here, they were corrected quietly. Nearby, another group worked on communication exercises. They practiced sending short signals using light, sound, and movement. They trained as if systems would fail, as if voices could be lost at any moment. The observers noticed that humans often trained for what might go wrong, not just for success. There were no speeches about glory. No words about being the best in the galaxy. Instructions were simple and direct. Move faster. Breathe slower. Watch each other. Stay aware. During a break, some humans sat on the ground, sharing water and simple food. They spoke softly, sometimes joking, sometimes silent. One checked another's bandaged hand without being asked. A third adjusted a loose strap on someone else's gear. These actions were small, almost invisible, but they happened again and again. The off-world warriors exchanged brief looks. They had expected pride. They saw routine instead. Training for humans did not look like a performance. It looked like work later in the day. The environment settings changed. Heat levels rose. Air became thin. The ground underfoot shifted slightly, simulating unstable terrain. The humans did not stop. They slowed their pace, adjusted their movements, and kept going. Some struggled. Faces tightened. Breathing grew heavy. Still, no one quit. Those who faltered were supported until they could stand again. One observer leaned forward slightly, curious despite themselves. These humans were not pushing for speed or strength alone. They were learning how to last. As the hours passed, the difference became clearer. Human training was not built around victory in a single moment. It was built around endurance, trust, and the idea that tomorrow's challenge might be worse than today's. When evening came, the sky darkened and the temperature dropped. The humans gathered for a final session. They sat in a loose circle, listening to feedback. No one shouted. Mistakes were discussed openly. Successes were mentioned briefly and then set aside. Tomorrow's work mattered more. The off-world warriors remained silent. They had seen countless training grounds before, filled with fire, speed, and power. This place had none of that. Yet something about it stayed with them. The humans did not train because they loved fighting. They trained because they expected hardship. And they refused to be unread. As the observers prepared to leave for the day, one of them paused and looked back at the field. The humans were cleaning equipment, fixing what was broken, preparing for the next session. No one noticed the gaze upon them. For the first time, doubt formed in the minds of the galaxy's mightiest warriors. They had not seen weakness. They had seen quiet preparation, and they sensed that this was only the beginning. The next day began before sunrise. The air crisp and carrying the quiet hum of a waking training ground. The human trainees had already started their routines, moving with steady determination, as if the previous day's observations had not occurred. To them, training was a habit, a necessity, not a performance for onlookers from other worlds. Still, the off-world warriors had returned. Their presence was heavier now, more deliberate. Their silence filled with a kind of sharp attention that made the human trainers notice. If only peripherally, the first exercise of the morning was a coordination drill. Humans were paired up, moving through a complex series of obstacles designed to test timing, balance, and adaptability. The alien observers tilted their heads as they watched the pairs adjust to each other's pace. One human stumbled, nearly losing balance on a shifting platform. The partner extended a hand without hesitation, steadying them. There was no complaint, no frustration, only a smooth continuation of movement. The warriors murmured among themselves, noting the subtle precision that came not from strength, but from connection and awareness. Next came endurance exercises. Humans were sent through courses that required running, climbing, and lifting under challenging conditions. The terrain was uneven, the obstacles unpredictable, yet humans adapted to every shift. One by one, they fell, stumbled, and rose again. Observers, accustomed to seeing training focused on brute power or advanced technology, were struck by the methodical way humans recovered. They did not rely on gadgets or superior force. They relied on patience, observation, the quiet insistence to keep moving. Between exercises, humans trained in small groups to repair equipment. The tools were old and sometimes fragile, but they were used and reused, passed down, repaired meticulously. Each person had a role, and the role was respected. No one acted as a master or subordinate. Every contribution mattered equally. The aliens watched, fascinated, as human cooperation was simple and complete. In other species' training grounds, hierarchy often dominated. Here, collaboration was silent but unbroken. By midday, the heat became intense, and the humans shifted to tactical drills. They practiced scenarios where communication lines could be cut. Resources could be limited, and decisions had to be made quickly. Humans moved like a single organism, their signals subtle, a nod, a hand gesture, a shift in stance. They adapted to each situation with little hesitation. The off-world warriors noted that humans seemed to think collectively, not individually. No one sought attention. Everyone sought results. In one exercise, the humans were placed in an artificially unstable environment. Sections of the ground moved, equipment failed unexpectedly, and sensory distractions were added. The humans faltered initially, some stumbling, some miscalculating distances. Then something remarkable happened. Each mistake was corrected immediately, not with words, but through action. A human fell, another caught them. A misstep in lifting was adjusted silently. The group kept moving forward. The warriors' previous impressions of fragility began to dissolve. Lunch was simple. Food was shared among the trainees without ceremony. The off-world warriors observed quietly as humans discussed minor mistakes, shared strategies, and sometimes spoke of hardships endured. There was no boastful talk of victory, no recounting of strength. Just simple reflection, a constant seeking of improvement. The aliens began to understand that human strength was built in quiet hours and small moments. not just the visible displays of power that often defined their own kind. In the afternoon, the humans practiced endurance in more extreme conditions. They were exposed to low temperatures and high winds, carrying equipment over long distances. Some appeared exhausted. Their movements slow, but they did not quit. Each person's fatigue was met with encouragement, a steady hand, a shared load. The off-world warriors realized that human training was less about beating an opponent and more about building resilience, both mental and physical. As the day wore on, the humans moved to strategy simulations. Small groups were given challenges with limited information. They had to find solutions quickly, using reasoning, observation, and teamwork. No advanced technology was provided, only the skills and instincts they had developed over years of disciplined training. The observers noticed how humans questioned assumptions, adapted plans, and communicated efficiently under pressure. It was not flashy, it was effective. Evening arrived and humans gathered to review the day. Discussions were candid but calm. Mistakes were analyzed not to assign blame, but to understand and improve. Successes were acknowledged briefly, then used as lessons for the next challenge. The off-world warriors remained silent, still absorbing what they had witnessed. They had expected to see raw power and spectacle. Instead, they saw quiet mastery, patience, and relentless determination, as the humans cleaned and organized equipment for the following day. One observer finally spoke. It was a single sentence almost lost in the wind. They endured more than we expected. By the time night fell, the warriors left the training ground, but their minds did not. The humans continued their routines, knowing no eyes were necessary to validate their work. Each step, each drill, each moment of quiet focus was part of a larger journey. The off-world warriors understood now that humans trained not to show strength, but to be prepared for the challenges that life and the universe might throw at them. And in that understanding, a quiet respect began to take root. The third day began with a sense of tension in the air. The alien observers had seen human endurance, coordination, and strategy, but today, a simulation was planned that would push the trainees to the edge. The humans gathered quietly in the training ground, stretching and preparing without fanfare. There was no excitement, no boastful energy, only a calm readiness that had been built over countless days and nights of practice. The simulation began with a sudden blackout across the field. Communication lines were cut. Equipment was rendered partially useless. The humans were thrown into conditions that mirrored unexpected disaster. The off-world warriors watched with anticipation, expecting chaos. Some humans stumbled, some hesitated, but almost immediately they began to adapt. Eyes scanned the darkened terrain, hands reached out for support, and subtle signals were exchanged. They were not moving recklessly. Every action had purpose. One pair encountered a broken pathway over a pit. The first human hesitated, calculating the distance. The partner extended an arm, not as a command, but as a steadying force. With careful steps, they crossed together. Another group faced a sudden collapse of equipment they depended on. Without complaint, they reorganized, using available resources to complete the task. The aliens whispered among themselves, noting that human problem-solving relied less on technology and more on improvisation and trust. As the hours passed, the humans encountered more obstacles. They were exposed to extreme temperatures and uneven terrain. Some trainees became exhausted, their movements slowing. Others adjusted, taking up the slack, supporting those struggling. The group functioned as a single organism, each member aware of the other's strengths and weaknesses. The warriors began to realize that human training was not, just about physical endurance. It was about emotional resilience and collective responsibility. In the midst of the simulation, an unexpected challenge arose. A section of the field was filled with a dense fog, reducing visibility to almost zero. Humans slowed, relying on touch, sound, and memory. They moved deliberately, guiding each other through unseen dangers. The alien observers would witness countless advanced species navigate challenges with superior sensors and technology, found themselves impressed by the humans' ability to adapt with so little. The quiet focus and unwavering determination were unlike anything they had countered. The humans took turns leading and following. Leadership shifted fluidly based on who was best positioned to make decisions at any moment. No one demanded authority. No one sought recognition. Decisions were made quickly, but with care, and actions were executed with precision. The warriors noted that human training emphasized adaptability and trust over hierarchy and power. Midway through the simulation, an individual stumbled and fell into a shallow crevice. Immediate aid came from nearby teammates. Hands reached down, pulling the person up without hesitation or fuss. They checked for injury, offered water, and encouraged the person to continue. The off-world observers murmured, astonished by the depth of human care. This was not just physical training, it was a test of character, shared responsibility, of courage born from empathy. Later, the humans faced a mental challenge within the simulation. They were confronted with false signals designed to mislead them, threatening to create panic. Instead of giving in, they paused, reassessed, and communicated quietly to reorganize. They relied on observation, memory, and intuition. The warriors used two species that reacted instantly with aggression. Notice the patience and thoughtfulness of humans. The silence in the viewing chamber was profound. As the day wore on, exhaustion became apparent. Muscles ached, breathing was heavy, and sweat mixed with dust. Yet the humans continued, spurred on by determination and mutual support. No one quit. Weakness was met with encouragement and practical help. Each success was small, almost unnoticed, but together, they accumulated into steady progress. In the final phase of the simulation, the humans were required to retrieve a series of objects from dangerous terrain and return them to a designated safe zone. The objects were heavy and awkward. The terrain was unstable. The weather was harsh. One by one, the humans carried their loads, helping each other when needed, adjusting their path to protect teammates. The off-world warriors leaned forward, silent, unable to look away. They had expected spectacle. Instead, they saw quiet persistence, courage, and careful planning. When the simulation ended, the humans gathered to reflect. Discussions were straightforward and calm. Mistakes were acknowledged without blame. Solutions were discussed and recorded for future training. Achievements were noted without fanfare. The aliens remained silent, struck by the humans' discipline and humility. As night fell, humans cleaned equipment, prepared for the next day, and moved quietly off the field. The observers lingered, still processing what they had seen. Today had been different. Today had shown not just endurance or skill, but the human ability to adapt, care for each other, and persevere under extreme pressure. A deep respect began to take shape, quiet and unspoken, among the galaxy's mightiest warriors. They had come to witness human weakness and found strength in its place. The fourth day of training began with a quiet determination that was almost palpable. The humans moved through the training grounds with a calm purpose. Every step, every movement, seemed deliberate yet effortless, honed by countless repetitions. The alien observers arrived early, more attentive than ever, their armored forms casting long shadows across the field. They had seen human adaptability and endurance, but today would reveal another layer of strength. It came from deeper than muscles and reflexes. The first exercise focused on team problem-solving under pressure. Humans were placed in a scenario where their paths were blocked, resources were limited, and information was fragmented. They began by assessing the environment, silently communicating through gestures and brief murmurs. The off-world warriors watched with interest. These humans were not rushing. They were thinking, observing, and adapting before acting. It was an unusual approach compared to the quick and direct tactics favored in the galaxy's other species. One group encountered a broken passage. Rather than forcing it, they circled, searching for alternative routes. They shared discoveries quietly, guiding each other with subtle cues. Each person's input was valued. No one tried to dominate or impress. The aliens noted the absence of ego in their teamwork. Decisions were made for the collective good, not for personal glory. Next, the humans were tested on endurance and mental resilience. They were exposed to extreme environmental stress, strong winds, fluctuating temperatures, and intermittent noise designed to distract and disorient them. One by one, humans adapted, adjusting breathing, posture, and movements. When someone struggled, teammates moved closer, offered support, and redistributed tasks to maintain progress. The aliens whispered to each other, noting that human resilience was intertwined with care for one another, not just personal strength. In a subsequent challenge, humans were confronted with conflicting instructions. Two sets of guidance were given simultaneously, each seemingly correct. Instead of panic, humans paused, considered the context, and consulted one another silently. They chose the path that balanced risk and efficiency. Observers were struck by the patience and judgment that guided their actions. Many of the galaxy's greatest warriors relied on instinct and speed, but these humans relied on observation, reflection, and trust. Midway through the day, a sudden mechanical failure occurred in the training equipment. Humans immediately took stock, assessed what could be fixed, and improvised solutions with available materials. The speed and creativity of their response impressed the alien warriors. Humans did not panic or demand external intervention. They relied on training, resourcefulness, and shared knowledge. The observers realized that humans trained for unpredictability, not just for skill execution. Later, humans moved to coordination exercises requiring synchronized action across distances. They practiced moving as a unit through complex terrain, communicating without words, anticipating each other's movements. Even when one member made an error, others adjusted seamlessly, preventing disruption. The aliens began to understand that human teamwork was fluid and adaptive, built on trust and shared experience rather than hierarchy or authority. As the sun reached its highest point, the humans faced a simulated crisis. They were required to evacuate a wounded team member from a hazardous area while maintaining overall safety and efficiency. Each person took responsibility, assessing their own capabilities and assisting others where needed. Mistakes were corrected instantly, without frustration or blame. The aliens observed in silence, realizing that the human approach to crisis combined courage, empathy, and discipline. It was unlike anything they had seen before in the afternoon. Humans engaged in long-duration drills combining physical and mental stress. They navigated unstable terrain, carried heavy loads, and solved complex puzzles under time pressure. Fatigue was visible, yet they persisted. Leaders emerged naturally, based on ability, not rank, and shifted when circumstances required. The aliens noted the balance between leadership, initiative, and cooperation. Humans did not demand control. They earned respect through action. Evening brought reflection sessions. Humans discussed mistakes, shared insights, and planned for improvements. Achievements were acknowledged briefly, but the focus remained on continuous growth. The aliens remained quiet, absorbing the lessons. They began to see that human strength was not raw power, but resilience, adaptability, teamwork, and emotional intelligence. Humans had trained themselves to face uncertainty, to endure hardship, and to support one another without expectation of reward. As the day ended, humans maintained their routines, cleaning equipment, and preparing for the next session. The off-world warriors lingered, quietly exchanging observations. For the first time, they understood that human training extended beyond physical drills. It built mental resilience, emotional strength, and a capacity for collaboration that could surpass superior technology or natural ability. They had come to witness humans for weakness and found a form of strength that challenged their expectations. The respect in the observer's silence was palpable, and the humans, unaware, continued their work, steady and unwavering, preparing themselves for challenges yet unseen. The final day of observation arrived with a quiet intensity. Humans gathered on the training grounds before sunrise, performing their routines with a calm determination that had become familiar to the off-world warriors. No one spoke of impressing the visitors. No one sought recognition. Every motion was purposeful, every action deliberate. It was a reflection of everything they had learned and practiced, a culmination of endurance, skill, and resilience. The observers had now seen humans in countless scenarios: endurance, strategy, adaptability, crisis management, teamwork, and improvisation. Today's exercises were designed to test their ability to integrate all those skills into a single, challenging simulation. The humans were given a complex scenario. They would navigate a hostile environment, retrieve critical resources, care for a simulated injured teammate, and maintain operational efficiency, all under unpredictable conditions. To an outsider, it seemed nearly impossible. As the humans began, some stumbled immediately. Terrain was unstable, visibility was limited, and unexpected obstacles appeared. Yet, the humans did not panic. They paused, assessed, and moved with precision. One person would scout, another would carry supplies, a third would assist the injured. Leadership shifted naturally based on skill and circumstance, and everyone contributed. The off-world warriors watched in silence, noting every decision, every adjustment, every act of care. At one point, a sudden challenge tested their adaptability. An artificial storm swept through part of the field, limiting visibility and adding physical strain. Humans adjusted instinctively. They linked arms for stability, moved slowly and deliberately, and maintained communication through subtle gestures and sounds. When someone began to falter, others supported them immediately. No complaints, no hesitation, just quiet determination. Meanwhile, mental challenges were layered into the simulation. Conflicting signals, unexpected delays, and confusing cues were introduced. The humans paused, observed, and collaborated. They did not act impulsively even when under pressure. Decisions were made collectively, with everyone aware of the other's capabilities and limitations. The warriors, accustomed to species reacting with instinct or aggression, were captivated by the calm, thoughtful approach. Humans combined patience with decisiveness in a way that defied expectation. The injured teammate had to be transported over a long distance, across uneven terrain and unstable platforms. One by one, humans took turns carrying the weight, coordinating with others to ensure safety. Each act of assistance was instinctive and seamless. When one person became exhausted, another stepped in. No one sought credit. The focus was on the team, on the mission, on survival. The aliens exchanged glances, realizing that human strength came not from physical power alone, but from resilience, trust, and care. During the final phase, the humans were required to retrieve scattered resources essential for the next part of the exercise. They moved with purpose, communicated efficiently, and adapted to shifting circumstances. One small mistake could have derailed the entire effort, yet they corrected errors immediately, adjusted strategies, and continued without visible frustration. The off-world warriors were struck by the combination of skill, determination, and empathy. Humans were not the fastest or strongest, but they were consistent, observant, and relentlessly focused. As the simulation concluded, exhaustion was visible. Bodies were sore, breathing was heavy, yet the humans remained attentive, completing equipment checks, debriefing one another, and preparing for future exercises. The observers, who had come expecting to see weakness and limitations, now felt a profound respect. The humans had endured, adapted, and succeeded in ways that went far beyond raw power. They had shown courage, intelligence, empathy, and discipline before leaving the field. The off-world warriors spoke quietly among themselves. No applause, no fanfare, just acknowledgement. They had learned something important. Human strength was unique. It was built over time, through hardship, collaboration, and determination. It was not flashy or immediate, but it was enduring and adaptable. They had witnessed endurance born not of natural advantage, but of will, care, and relentless effort. As night fell, the humans gathered their belongings and left the field, unaware of the full impact they had made. The alien observers lingered for a moment, reflecting. They had come to judge and observe, expecting to witness ordinary training. Instead, they had seen something extraordinary. Humans had trained for survival, for one another, and for the challenges of life itself. They had faced the impossible and persevered with quiet courage. The warriors departed the training grounds in silence, each carrying with them a newfound respect for humans. Across the galaxy, they would remember the lessons learned from these small, determined beings. The humans had not fought with superior strength, speed, or technology. They had fought with patience, endurance, empathy, and unwavering commitment. And in that quiet, steadfast dedication, they had proven themselves to be formidable in ways the galaxy had not anticipated. Back on the field, the humans prepared for the next day of training. To them, it was routine, another step in a continuous journey of improvement. To the observers, it was a revelation. The galaxy's mightiest warriors had come expecting spectacle and had found strength where they had never imagined it. Silence, focus, and determination had spoken louder than any display of power. Humans had shown, quietly and convincingly, that true strength is forged in patience, resilience, and unity. Though the formal observation period had ended, the humans continued their routines as if nothing had changed. The alien warriors had left, but the impressions they left behind lingered in subtle ways. The training grounds carried an unusual energy now, a sense of quiet, a pride mixed with the constant drive to improve. Humans moved through their exercises, lifting, running, strategizing, and observing, with the same calm determination that had defined every day so far. The first activity of the day was a problem-solving exercise under extreme stress. Humans were required to navigate a complex maze with sections that changed unpredictably. Obstacles appeared without warning, paths closed suddenly, and communication channels were partially disrupted. Despite these challenges, humans remained focused. They scanned their surroundings, shared subtle signals, and adjusted strategies in real time. The lessons from previous days were visible in every action. Confidence had replaced hesitation, not arrogance, but a quiet assurance built from countless hours of disciplined effort. A small team encountered a blocked pathway. Without hesitation, they paused to assess alternatives, using observation and teamwork rather than brute force. One member noticed a weakness in the obstacle and signaled another, who tested the structure carefully. Slowly and deliberately, they navigated the hazard, keeping safety in mind for all members. Every success and every adaptation was methodical. The humans moved not as individuals, but as a cohesive unit. Each aware of their role and responsibility, midway through the morning, a simulated crisis was introduced. A section of the maze was intentionally filled with smoke and sound distortions, meant to confuse and disorient. The humans did not panic. They slowed their pace, relied on touch, gestures, and prior knowledge, and maintained steady communication. Some stumbled, others misjudged distances, but immediate corrections followed without blame or hesitation. The effort was collaborative. Mistakes were treated as opportunities to learn, not failures. Physical endurance was tested next. Humans were required to transport heavy equipment over uneven terrain while maintaining careful observation and communication. Their muscles ached, breathing was heavy, and their movements were precise, despite fatigue. Those who felt exhaustion were supported immediately by teammates. The cooperation was instinctive, the trust unspoken. The sense of unity in the group was palpable, a reflection of discipline and shared purpose. Observers, if present, would have noticed that human resilience came not just from individual strength, but from the connections between them. After the physical challenges, mental endurance exercises followed. Humans were given complex puzzles under tight time constraints combined with environmental distractions. They worked quietly, sharing information and discussing solutions without raising their voices. Focus was maintained even under pressure. The ability to stay calm, think critically, and communicate effectively demonstrated that human training had prepared them for far more than physical adversity. During a break, small teams engaged in improvisational exercises, requiring them to use limited resources creatively. They built temporary bridges, devised signaling methods, and coordinated movements in simulated danger zones. Each innovation arose from collaboration, observation, and trial-and-error learning. Success was celebrated quietly, failures analyzed calmly. The humans exhibited not only skill, but humility and willingness to adapt. In the afternoon, more challenging endurance exercise was introduced. Humans faced a combination of physical obstacles, mental puzzles, and simulated threats in rapid succession. They moved methodically, each aware of the other's positions and capabilities. Adjustments were constant. When one member fell behind, others slowed to assist. Coordination and trust were evident in every step. The activity tested stamina, teamwork, problem-solving, and emotional resilience all at once. During this session, a sudden hazard was simulated. A section of the terrain became unstable, threatening to trap or injure a team member. Humans responded instantly. They secured the area, assisted the affected person, and reorganized their approach. Panic was absent. Methodical action replaced instinctive reaction. The group adapted, overcame the obstacle, and continued with the exercise. The combination of skill, patience, care, created a synergy that no single individual could achieve alone. As the day progressed, the humans reflected on lessons from the exercise. Feedback sessions were calm, focused, and productive. Mistakes were analyzed for improvement, successes documented to reinforce effective techniques. No egos were involved. The priority was understanding, adaptation, and preparation for future challenges. Every session reinforced the philosophy of continuous learning and resilience. Evening arrived with humans performing their final drills of the day. Each movement, each interaction, each decision reflected discipline, awareness, and dedication. The training grounds, silent and empty of observers, seemed alive with purpose. Humans had internalized the principles of endurance, adaptability, teamwork, and empathy. Their growth was visible, not only in skill, but in the way they approached every task with calm determination. Though no alien warriors were present, their impact lingered in subtle ways. Humans had learned that true strength came from preparation, cooperation, and the will to persist under pressure. Each day built upon the last, forming layers of skill, resilience, and character. Humans trained not for spectacle, not for glory, but for the challenges that lay ahead. Their silent perseverance had become a form of mastery, quiet power that spoke louder than any display of force as night fell. Humans completed their routines and prepared for rest. Equipment was cleaned, exercises reviewed, and strategies noted for the next day. The commitment to improvement and unity was unwavering. The training ground, once ordinary, now carried a weight of experience, discipline, and quiet triumph. Though no one cheered or watched, the human spirit shone brightly in every motion, in every decision, and in every act of care. Strength, they had proven, was not only physical, it was patience, endurance, empathy, and the unwavering drive to rise above any challenge.